Hello, Lose Weight with Macros, the Basics Podcast family. I'm your host, Verona. And if you're new here, welcome to the show. I'm a nutrition coach who believes in the power of real life tools to create healthy habits. I help busy women like you get rid of the stress and emotional eating that keeps you from creating resilient, lifelong habits that, quite frankly, you can trust. Instead of giving you another boring diet or workout plan or bland salad and tell you just to eat a whole heap of salad leaves while your family chow down on your favorite meals in the corner and you are regretfully eating that bowl of dry salad. I'ma help you learn how to use macros to lose fat, keep it off, and rebuild that confidence that diets often strip us of. That insecurity, that fear, that no longer feeling confident in our bodies that we know we need to get rid of. Friends, if this sounds like your cup of tea, grab your tea, your coffee, and your notepad and pen, because today's episode, friends, is gonna be a juicy one. Now, before we get into why your macros are not macroing, let's start from the beginning. Let's find out what macronutrients are. Macros, short for macronutrients, are the three main components of foods that you and I both love to eat: fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Believe me, there's been a myth for all three of those. Fats, don't eat fat, it's going to make you fat. Protein, it's going to hurt your kidneys. Yes, they will hurt your kidneys if you have an underlying kidney condition. However, I'm not your medical care provider, so we're going to leave that one just there. And carbohydrates coming in at the top corner, the most talked about nutrient ever that is constantly demonized. Carbs are bad. You can't eat potatoes. You can't eat this. Diabetics can't eat that. Diabetics can't eat this. Your doctor, if you're a diabetic, would have likely told you the type of foods to start to reduce from. Now, what we hear when we go to the doctors and what we actually do and how we actually translate that is a little bit like that game that we used to play at school. I've known it as Chinese whispers. This is not in any way to cause offense to anybody who may be of the Asian community. That's what I know it as. You might know it as something else. Basically, the concept of the game, if you're not familiar with it, is starts off with one person. One person has a word with the person who's not playing. They whisper it to one. They've only got to hear it once, and then they've got to translate what they heard, even if this is not the right word. They translate that to the next person, and it comes all the way back round. And then the last person ends up saying the word what was out. And then you ask the person who first started, was that the word? 9 times out of 10, it's not the word that was actually said, because you can't ask the person, what did you say? You've literally got to pass on the word that you heard. And that's the same thing when we go into the doctor's office and they translate, you need to reduce the amount of carbohydrates and fats you're eating in your diet. We compute that as, okay, the doctors told me that I need to cut out all carbohydrates, never eat carbs again because carbs are bad. That's not what the doctor is saying. But anyway, let's get into what we're talking about today. Why your macros are not macroing. So when someone tells you that their macros are 20% protein, I don't know who's going to be eating that amount of protein. 30% carbs. Who can eat 30% carbs, please? And I'm doing strength training 3 times a week. Not me. 50% fat. That's great. That's more like it. That's within the healthy range. This person, I can absolutely look at this and tell me this person is a low carb dieter. That's what I can tell. They're not eating enough protein and they're definitely not eating enough carbohydrates. So they're following a low carb diet, yet they're trying to burn out their body and do vigorous types of exercise. So we will leave that one there. This is real life, people. People have these types of macros. Anyway, tracking macros is important for a number of reasons. You can make sure that your diet is balanced by eating enough of each macronutrient without going overboard on any one type. You'll be going to this personally when you have the personal link to the podcast that is additional to this, that is specifically for paying customers and paying clients that are working with me on a one-to-one. Yes, there is a different podcast point. And I'm like, you know what, this is clearly not working. You can listen to this on the go. It's super simple. It's easy. And then you've got Vox to support me on a one-to-one. Think of it like WhatsApp. And we're having a one-to-one and that's supporting you in real time, additional to our check-ins, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or every single month, depending on you, your lifestyle, your business, and what would help you the most. When it comes to coaching, I am literally doing this to help make it easy for you, make it simple. If it becomes overwhelming, then something is wrong, but it's about focusing on what works for you and your lifestyle. Now, when it comes to your diet, one of the ways that you can make sure that your diet is balanced, and when I say diet, I don't mean restrictive things. I mean the way that you eat on a day-to-day basis. One of the ways that you can do this is making sure that you're eating enough of each macronutrient. Don't be skimpy on the macros. Now, that's why when I'm doing your custom macros, when I'm taking into consideration everything that you've put in the application form, so macros is somebody who has an idea of macros. If you don't have an idea of what macros are, head over to the website vianutritioncoaching.co.uk/macros guide. My 5-minute guide to macros. It's explaining what macronutrients is and if it's right for you. once we've done these things, I'm taking into consideration the right macronutrient split for your body. It is not 20 grams of protein, 20% of protein, 30% of carbs, 50% of fat. The fat is a nice portion, don't get me wrong. That accounts for healthy fats as well. But 30% of carbs, especially if you're doing strength training, never. So when you're making sure that your diet is balanced by eating enough of each of these macronutrients without going overboard on any one type, the healthy fats and the foods that like nuts and oils, those things don't become a problem. Yes, you can include your avocado, your bacon, and your cheese. By tracking your macros over time, you can see how different foods affect your overall fat loss efforts. For example, many of us, if we love carbohydrates, which I do, we can notice when we're tracking, you know what, I'm good on the carbs. In fact, I go over my carbs on a regular, but I'm under eating on my protein or I'm overeating on my carbs and fats. So then you automatically know what is it that I'm eating that are high in carbs, high in fats. Now, don't do the thing where you're misunderstanding what I'm saying in the breakdown video and being like, well, Verona told me to cut out carbs. No, I didn't. Now, if you're someone who is under breakfast, under lunched and under dinnered and over snacked and over caffeinated and over wined, if you are all of those things, chances are you begin to eat something for lunch and soon after you're craving something sweet. Now, many of us don't crave for a sweet potato. We don't reach for a sweet potato because the sweet potato actually does have a nice sweetness to it that we can eat. But if you and I are real here, we don't reach for a sweet potato. Now, when we are following the advice that says, well, white carbs are going to make me fat, white carbs are going to do this, white carbs, we just get so lost and we get so focused on things that don't really help us towards our goals. What it ends up doing is taking you so far away from your goals. You end up in a faraway island and you're striking and waving your hand here, waiting for an SOS, waiting for somebody to come and catch you and rescue you, but they never come because you still believe these myths. Now, I believe these myths too. This is no shade here. I used to believe these same things. Oh my gosh, if you want to lose weight, you just need to cut out carbs. So I tried to do that. I actually tried to do that for 9 months when I did the keto diet. I actually decided, you know what, forget all these carbohydrates. They make me fat anyway. So I lost a ton of water weight, absolutely. However, for my body, I developed a lifelong attachment to vitamin D. Now, you might say, no, Verona, that's natural. In wintertime, when the sun has gone away, if you're not in a country that is a hot country, you are going to be low in vitamin D. Yes, Mrs. Scientist, I absolutely know the facts. However, when I specifically stopped the ketogenic diet, I booked myself a blood test. This is where I wanted to see what was going on in my body. And then the doctor told me, you have developed a vitamin D deficiency. I had never had a vitamin D deficiency in my life, just anemia. So when you're anemic, you know that you go for regular blood tests. Nothing else. An FBC, which is a full blood count, tested UNEs, electrolytes, liver, all of those things. But I have done FBCs, plenty of FBCs because I'm anemic. And I have to do them regularly to check my iron levels. And also full blood count, I'm checking other things as well. And they're asking, I'm specifying what blood tests I'm doing, whether that's privately or publicly. There, I can then see these levels, my B12, everything. And that's what I'm equipping my clients with when we start on the one-to-one coaching. So I'm seeing all of these blood tests, all of my levels, all of my markers, etc. So then I know these things weren't present before I did the ketogenic diet. After I did, then the doctor said, you've become vitamin D deficient. So if I don't have enough vitamin D, I'm now taking supplements. If I don't have enough vitamin D, I feel like I get vertigo-like symptoms. Even if I'm turning over to go to change position or whatever, or I'm standing up, some people are like, oh, maybe you just stood up too fast. No, maybe it's vertigo symptoms. And I'll have a constant tension headache. I drink water regularly and go to bed often. So I know my things that I need to take care of. However, nobody ever told me. I've never had these symptoms ever before keto. Now, people are like, no, don't do that. They start to defend keto. My point here is carbohydrates are not going to make you fat isolated on its own. Scientifically, we can overeat it, absolutely. And that contributes to fat gain and fat storage in our liver. When our body can no longer handle the extra calories that we're eating, it then stores them as fat. So that could be anything that we're eating, but it isn't isolated to carbohydrates alone. Yes, if you're type 2 diabetic or at risk of it, you would be medically advised. I don't want to step into that medical care provider's position for free because that's not my role. So I'm going to stay in my lane, and we're going to go next into, if you're trying to lose weight and you're tracking macros and you're wondering why your macros are not macroing, one thing could be you are eating too much of macros. You are eating too much of one macro. That could be protein, that could be carbs, that could be fat. And then if you are overeating a particular macro, the other factors will be thrown off. It's not just the fact that it's one macro, there are other things that can contribute to it, like you're not tracking everything. So if you're not tracking what you eat, it can be difficult to know how many grams of macro are in your meals if you're trying to do this on your own, which is when you get your custom macros with me, and then it breaks down everything and how you can get the most out of it, especially when you're tracking the foods. Now, once you advance, you don't have to track your macros for the rest of your life. And that's something that I teach. It's not about tracking your macros and taking a weighing scale and having that next to you for the rest of your entire life. Now, we're going to completely switch gears now and switch to another aspect, because I've overtalked about carbohydrates. You can see how passionate I am about this myth. Not just the fact against the myth, but it's against the people who are perpetuating that message. They don't actually know you cannot eat any carbs at all and still be overweight. So therefore, carbohydrates are not the enemy and they don't cause fat gain. So when we focus on things like this and we isolate things and we label things as the problem, and actually it's not that at all, it's the way that it's our relationship with food and how we appropriate food. And as I said in the beginning, the neurological pathways that are associated to these things that we do with food. When you change that, you change your relationship with food. So we've all been there. You're on a diet, you're counting your macros, you eat some chicken for protein, you eat some broccoli for carbs, yes, they are a carb, and some cauliflower for fat. What fat is in cauliflower? There is none. This is a definite keto staple. Believe me, my house smelled like rotten eggs for a long time when I was doing the ketogenic diet. But when you get home and you open your cupboards, you realize that you don't have any broccoli or you don't have any cauliflower. Although I don't know who keeps their cauliflower in the cupboard or their broccoli. Can you imagine the stench that would come from that, especially in the hot summer months? Don't keep your broccoli or your cauliflower in the cupboard, friends. Keep it stored safely in the fridge. So, coming to land, friends, 2 of the reasons why your macros might not be macroing is you're eating too much of one macro, you're not tracking everything. And the final reason why your macros might not be macroing is they're not customized for you. It's great that there are free calculators all over the internet. However, many of them are going to differ from one to another. And here's why. The formulas in the back end are going to be different on one to another. And so when it comes to that, also not to mention and not to forget that a calculator is an innate thing. It isn't going to take in everything about you into consideration. It's no way that it can do. There is no formula. There's no back end formula. There is no website copy that's going to be able to do that for them or for you. So if your macros are not customized and they are generic 40, 40, 30, 30, 40, whatever it is that all amounts to 100%, if it's not customized, it's generic. And what is being created for Sally is trying to be passed down to Jane, Verona, Amanda, Sarah. And we're all going to be different. Yes, we might have the one thing in common that we're all females, we're all women. However, how our bodies digest and neutralize food and all of those things that our fantastic bodies can do are going to be different to everybody else, which is why when it comes to macros, it has to be customized in order for you to get the best out of it. If you're somebody going onto the calculators and you already have a basic idea of how to manage your macros and how to track it yourself, absolutely. However, if you are a complete newbie to macros, I recommend in order to get the most out of your macros is to get it dialed in to the gram, because there is no room for error. You are free to increase your carbs if you need to increase your carbs. Hello, menstrual cycle has come. We want more carbohydrates. So that gives you the autonomy. And that's the difference between free and when you're putting skin in the game. And with that, friends, that is the end of today's episode. That's where I'm going to drop it and leave it there. This is why your macros are not macroing. And my friends, we will catch you on the next one. Friends, we've come through to the end of today's episode. I hope you learned something valuable from today's episode and can put it right into practice now that the episode has ended. If you found value in this episode, do share it with somebody else who can also benefit from today's episode. My friends, don't forget to download your freebies over on the website vianutritioncoaching.co.uk and also be in with a chance of coming live on air with me to get yourself some free Coach Fridays by leaving your question over on the brand new podcast page. vianutritioncoaching.co.uk/podcast is where you can leave me a question and I'll answer it over here on one of the episodes. And that's all we got time for, friends. I can't wait to catch you in the next episode.